the magic.
Thank you. If I put Lance just ahead of
I don't have a problem.
if that doesn't bother you, then that gets
That's fine.
babies.
I just went by his office. I came up Walnut Street.
Yeah, I've noticed that
Are you going home
myself.
tonight, or you?
I'm gonna go home, yeah.
You come up Walnut? Did you
Yes, I
come
do.
up? Yeah.
Yeah.
I didn't even, I said, well, there's your business on
Yeah.
Walnut Street.
Yeah.
I passed right by your business.
Yeah, me too, a couple
Matter of fact, I
times
think your
ago.
car was still there, so.
At Secure.
Yes.
Somebody wanted me to dance. I was studying group stuff.
Are you good if we get started, Debbie? Yeah. Are you good if we go ahead and get started? Yes. Very good. All right, folks, let's get started so we can finish on time.
All right, how are you?
Hey, folks, can we get started? I have a gavel, but I don't want to have to use it or throw it, so.
Do you carry it?
I have it. You want to see it? It seriously is. But that's all right. You don't need to see it. I promise. It's in there.
You really have it?
I really do. Somebody gave it to me once. Welcome to the December meeting. Happy holidays. We have what looks like a long agenda, but we have ways of bundling things together. So I would have a goal of being home before it gets too late tonight. With all of that, I want to seek approval on the board meeting minutes for the October 25th meeting, if everyone's had a chance to look.
So moved.
I have one addition.
Okay?
When we approved the budget, I made mention of a comment that Debbie Ladyman asked me to make, is that the portion of the $1 million would only go to the sediment management plan. That did not make it into the minutes.
Very good. I remember that.
Yeah, we need to
So-
put that in there.
Yep,
Could we
I rem-
have that corrected?
Absolutely.
Thank you.
I missed that. But I remember you saying it.
Well, I second. After that.
What's that?
I second after that.
Right.
Mary Jane made the motion.
Yeah.
She
I made
seconded.
I moved that with
That's
with
okay,
the
Mary Jane.
correction.
Thank you.
Laura seconds.
All those in favor, please say
Aye.
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 Any opposed? With the board's blessing, I would like to ask our insurance review with Mr. Everly to be inserted prior to going on with the rest of our business so he can exit early if he would care to. That's our Christmas gift to you. I'm sure your wife will appreciate it too.
Yeah, I've got a 6-year-old basketball game to go to here.
Oh dear, all right. Well, we're very happy to have you, and if you'd like to give us, we've all, I think, had a chance to see your lovely report that came through in our packets. Everything looked status quo to me, except your recommendation at the end regarding the pollution coverage, but you can tell us.
Yeah, I'll kind of get into it. For the most part, I'll probably kind of skim through the main coverages that are pretty basic and straightforward, and kind of certainly maybe focus on some of the unique exposures that we have with Lake Lemon. But feel free to ask me any questions or whatnot if there is any detailed questions as we get into it. The good news is really the insurance marketplace is steady as we go, and I think you've kind of seen that reflected in the pricing. There hasn't been anything too overly catastrophic or that has caused any negativity or premium increases, so it's pretty ho-hum as we kind of move on.
Shocker,
Yeah.
really, with all the natural disasters we've had.
There's two positive things with the insurance industry right now. Is it is very well capitalized, so we basically do have the ability to take on some of these major hurricanes and such that you see. And kind of contrary to a borrowing side, we actually like to see interest rates go up, and so the interest rate environment with the increases that we have has also had a positive impact in taking some of the pressure off the premium side of things. So, overall in 2019, I think we're going to continue to see more of the same as we kind of move forward. Real quickly, I try to do a little bit of comparison between last year's premium and this year's premium. And as you can see overall, basically the premiums are basically flat. Not a whole lot of changes that we see. I do have one bit of good news that I think we'll be carrying forward. This time of year with workers' compensation, it's always a little bit of a struggle because those in business knows that basically they revise work comp rates every year effective January 1st. And so they come out with the advisory rates, and it's always a scramble this time of year to get all the filings done and get the carrier's rates filed so that we can get a firm quote on it. So the quote that we have on workers' compensation is based on last year's rates. So everything, I think, going forward, once it's firmed up, it's actually going to come down a little bit for twofold. The advisory rates that did come out overall were down 7% as compared to 2018, so that's good. And then actually the mod factor for Lake Lemon, which is kind of how we evaluate your claim history, is at a 0.91, so that add another 9% cushion to it as well. So we should definitely make it up, and I think overall be pretty flat when the end of the year comes into play. Didn't know if anybody had any questions on property coverages and whatnot. I mean, they're pretty
I
straightforward.
wondered about the deductible. It seems like an awfully low deductible. I mean, would we get our premiums down if we increased our deductible?
Not enough to probably justify it. There would be a little bit of an impact, but really when you look at your building limits and the limits that we're carrying, there's not a whole lot there of room to play around with, and the premium really, as far as being attributed to the property, is extremely low. Most of our premiums in the liability side of the equation and on the equipment, so there really wouldn't be much to gain there. And essentially, you have one claim, you'll lose any of that savings pretty quick.
And a couple of these coverages, like accounts receivable, reward coverage, I guess I was kind of like wondering about those, or I feel like our taxes or something in terms of receivables, or?
Actually, they're add-ons basically through what they call property endorsements.
Okay, so they just add all this as part of the overall premium?
Yeah, so
Okay.
we really get the enhancements that we get a very low premium on, and it kind of combines all those coverages in there. And there's a few things that it provides, such as basically, the business income and things of that nature, which is really what I'm trying to gain by that, endorsement. And it's a lot cheaper just to do the endorsement,
Gotcha.
do it that way versus trying to go a la carte and, pull certain coverages into play.
So Lance, does this cover our dredging equipment?
Yes.
Okay,
Not the
'cause-
property though. This will be covered as part of what they call the inland marine form.
The what?
The inland marine form.
Okay,
But it's all part of this.
because I thought I remember reading something in there about something on the water wasn't going to be covered.
You're right.
Retrieval.
Retrieval.
Retrieval. Yeah, there's actually, and basically, we go through with Adam every year. On the inland marine coverages, there's basically two different tiers as it deals with the rating, one being on land and actually one being on water. And so we do divide out the equipment that basically is on the barges and stuff to have the over-the-water coverage, so that would be covered for the equipment itself, if it would get in the water and fall into the lake, and the replacement of that. As Adam mentioned, the one thing we can't cover is the retrieval of it. That would be an out-of-pocket expense.
Okay, so if the barge sinks, we got to get it back ourselves, huh?
Yeah, we can build a new one, but we gotta reclaim that one.
What about the crime coverage? I was kind of usually I think the premium on that was pretty cheap, and it's pretty cheap to have, but this forgery and alteration is excluded. So someone dummies up an invoice and it gets paid, or usually if someone forges a check, a bank would cover that, but
Bank would
what are
cover
we
it.
saying, this employee dishonesty, like what kind of an umbrella do we have for that?
The employee dishonesty, the primary reason for that deals with the treasurer. Mike, I guess that'd be you. In that, basically, by requirements through the state, they have to be bonded.
Right.
And so effectively, that has been endorsed. It is basically operates as a treasurer's bond that we do file with the state every year. And so that's why we have that amount. On the forgery and alteration.
I'm not questioning that we need it, I mean, but.
On the forgery and alteration, it's, like you said, really for the most part, the bank's gonna cover a lot of that if they, misinterpreted a check or things of that
Right.
nature. So really, we don't have too many more claims on that, especially as we've gone more into the electronic age and things of that nature
Right.
as it relates to that.
Right.
What we're getting into now, you mentioned something that somebody sent you a dummy invoice.
Oh, yeah, I mean, it's a big, costly area of fraud.
That one's actually unique, and until about a year ago, we didn't even have a way to cover that. That's what they call social engineering. So the problem that we have there with crime is that, well, they didn't really steal the money, you kind of gave it to them. They tricked you. And so unfortunately, under a crime form, they eliminate coverage on that, you know, altogether because you willfully gave them the funds. There is what they call social engineering coming back into play now. It's actually, they just came out with the form about a year or two ago, and it's starting to come out, and they're still trying to figure out the pricing and all of it, you know, for that. But that is something that is becoming available now if you have a, you know, concern with that going forward.
And when you said the employee dishonesty covers you primarily for Mike, Mike's an officer, but it does cover our paid employees,
Yep.
correct?
Yep,
Okay.
that's correct, yes. Kind of going back to Les, we do have coverage for the contractor's equipment. And again, we kind of break it down based on equipment on the water and off the water, so we always kind of keep tabs on that. Basically, the main thing on that, it does operate much like, you know, your autos does, so it is an actual cash value type valuation, so it is a depreciated replacement that they use, you know, on that. But basically, I know Adam and I went back and forth to re-verify, you know, that equipment and got that all adjusted, so we're current going forward. And then we do have a $1,000 deductible on the equipment itself, and then we have a $500 deductible on the dock, the new floating dock that was installed. But that basically includes everything, you know, from all the excavation equipment to the barges to, you know, the boats and everything else in between is included in that figure. Yeah, as mentioned, the one thing that doesn't have a way to cover through it is the retrieval. We cover the equipment itself, but the cost of getting it out, we can't, unfortunately. General liability, this is basically, you do have $1 million liability limits. We also have a $3 million umbrella. And this is a thing that's very unique to the Bliss McKnight program, because if you think about Lake Lemon Conservancy District, got your hands in a lot of different things. We're a municipality, we're a taxing entity. We basically have a park as well, a beach, and you know, of course, we have a little bit of a construction thing going on with the dredging, so a whole lot of exposures there that come into play. And so through the program that we've always had, and it's, you know, we've always gone out periodically and searched the marketplace. This has been the area that a lot of carriers have trouble doing, whereas, you know, to get one carrier to do it all. And so basically they are covering all the liability from all the construction operations, from your municipalities as well. In addition, they provide errors and omissions exposures as it relates to a municipality, and also provide, you know, civil rights liability if you would get a claim as it kind of relates to that as well. So that's all incorporated in it. The one key thing that this does provide, and this is one that I haven't been even able to find another carrier that would do it, is the dam. And it does provide for dam failure coverage. They would consider that covered under the liability. So if we have a breach in the dam and it does property damage downstream, they file claims against us for negligence as a result. You know, we do have coverage under this. In addition to the $1 million, you know, it is also covered under the $3 million umbrella as well.
So would they replace the dam or just pay for the damage?
Basically, they would pay for the damage to the third party. We did actually bring up a good question. We did look at, you know, dam coverage and if there's any possibilities there. If you think about it, there's just no good way to cover it. Because you think about what's insurable and what an insurance coverage would cover. You know, if you have a fire, it's probably not going to damage the dam. If you have a hailstorm, probably not going to damage the dam. And things of that, it's really going to be kind of more of a wear and tear or a flooding event. That's probably going to do the main damage there, and those are major exclusions, you know, under the property form. So that's one with the cumulative, you know, maintenance fund. Kind of continue to build on that. That would be kind of a source.
So
For
does
the,
anybody insure dams? I mean, because, you know, the thing is, if it failed and there was no lake, our property values would be,
Isn't that what happened with Katrina?
you know, way down.
The problem with that
Electric
is
dam.
it's kind of, especially earth in the ground, if you look at the coverages, there's, you know, basically it really wouldn't supply much because we would exclude a lot of the main losses. And then the cost of it would be so prohibitive that it's better just to put so much away each year in that maintenance fund to kind of cover it that way. asking any questions on liability, this is the one that's, you know, pretty unique as well. And it does include, you know, life-saving services, obviously with the park and the beach and things of that nature. If you would have to do anything like that, it's hard to believe that somebody would actually sue you for it, but, you know, we've seen it happen. And they would consider that covered as well. The D&O coverage, directors and officers, basically we do have that through Cincinnati. It's on a 3-year policy. It actually doesn't renew this year. It's good through 2020 as far as the rates go. But again, we have $1 million of coverage basically for the board and the officers as part of your actions, due diligence, fiduciary liability, etc. included there. And it also includes as part of it employment practices coverage. So, you know, if you would have an employee discrimination claim, harassment, things of that, kind of what we're seeing a lot in the news right now, you know, it is covered under this policy as well. No major changes, you know, with the automobile. And then, you know, basically we did, over the course of the past year, we had the old truck that's kind of down by the shed that, you know, we're carrying liability only on that, which is a minimal cost, but we don't have any physical damage, but we are carrying physical damage on the other trucks that are in use. As mentioned, liability with the umbrella, we have the umbrella that extends coverage over the auto, general liability, and all those coverages, as well as the work comp. That's set at $3 million with Cincinnati. That's also a 3-year policy that goes to 2020 in that regards. And as mentioned, workers' compensation is pretty much statutory. We basically would pay for coverage to any work, you know, site injuries or anything that would occur there. Basically, the best kind of medical insurance you could have. Basically covers all the medical bills. First dollar any rehabilitation, lost wages, and disability is also included as part of that as well. Yeah, we do have different classifications, but you know, we generally keep up with that. It is premium on that's based on payroll, and so we've been pretty steady as she goes when it comes to payroll each year, budgeting and stuff. So we haven't had a lot of changes, but you know, total payroll we're running about $158,000 on that altogether. And then over the course of the last year or two, we did add a little bit of cyber liability. Primary reason we are starting to take some credit cards and things of that nature, so that does open it up to, you know, hacking and things of that. So we do have about $50,000, you know, in regards to response expenses. So if you do have a data breach and you have to send out the letters and inform people, that, you know, coverage is there to do that. And then we have about $50,000 in terms of liability. If somebody would come back and make a claim against Conservancy that they would cause harm, you know, as a result of a breach, you know, we have that coverage as well. And it does provide a little bit for what they call the PCI, that's the credit card standards, and if you don't meet it, you can be fined. We do have coverage up to that $10,000 for those fines as well. This is one coverage that, you know, we have in place. It's $50,000 enough? Probably not. If we would have a breach, we would probably exceed that, but at least it gives us a start. We could kind of continue to look at that, you know, kind of going forward. With that, I know we had a couple things that we were, you know, one recommendation. I didn't know if there was any questions or anything on the overall coverages or anything else that we need to cover today.
Are we to the pollution part now?
Pollution, yes.
I just would like to have you tell us a little more about what that would cost, what it means. I mean, I get generally what you're talking about, but is this like if we have a big spill in the lake kind of thing, or what's the?
Pollution liability, those coverages are designed to fill, you know, a major exclusion on your general liability form. You know, every general liability is just going to exclude pollution. So, you know, any of the damages, the cleanup, the monitoring, or as a result of that, basically it's just a common exclusion. So the pollution basically would pick up those coverages. So, you know, if you would have an accidental spill in the lake and, the IDEM comes down and makes requirements that you have to clean it up and things of that nature, that can trigger coverage under a pollution liability form, whereas, you know, it wouldn't be covered under a normal general liability thing. Pollution really in broad sense, in insurance speak is, the definition of it is extremely broad as what they classify as pollution. So I know we think of pollution like things like gasoline or hazardous materials or things of that nature. But insurance really defines pollution as anything that's in an environment that it shouldn't be. So I could use the example, if we have a milk truck going down, the causeway and it goes, plumbles into the lake and all the milk spills out, we wouldn't consider milk hazardous, but under insurance, I would consider that a pollution situation. And they would basically, deny any type of coverage or clean up liability as a result of that. Cost-wise, it really just kind of depends on the overall exposure. So what you do, the main driving is going to obviously be the dredging. I know we've tried to do things and we've gone back and forth in the past with the environmental friendly, hydraulic fluids, but we still have diesel in fuels and things of that nature. So they would really kind of look at those operations and rating it. We're probably looking at $1,000–1,500, for that type of policy to get it started.
1,500?
Yeah.
Really? Okay. Anybody else have other questions on?
So the umbrella would not cover the pollution.
Yeah, pollution's, one of those exclusions.
The umbrella will cover everything else.
Except the nice thing about Cincinnati umbrella, it is standalone, so it can drop down, but they do have some exclusions in it. Pollution being one. The other things are like nuclear exposure, war, your pretty common bit, broad-reaching type exclusions.
Acts of God kind of thing. Do they still have acts of God in this
Actually got to
policy?
be property more than anything. But I think we've had a question or two on that as it relates to trees.
Could be an act of God to throw the milk truck into the lake. I mean, that's I've heard that to be
Like
an
an
act of
earthquake?
God. Well, yeah.
Could be.
But I think a good question on that is, I think we've had a few calls in the past on trees on property, and if they're on the Conservancy property, what's the Conservancy's liability versus that? Technically, if the tree's perfectly healthy and falls down, even if it originates on your property but falls onto an adjoining property and does damage because of a windstorm or something along that line, they would classify that as an act of God, and there wouldn't be really any negligence on behalf of the Conservancy. Their property coverage would pick it up, etc. Where it gets a little bit tricky is, let's say you have somebody notify you, hey, that tree's dead, and I have concerns about that it might fall on the property. Then you do have a responsibility there to take it down, and that could get into a negligent claim, which would trigger the liability in that place if that goes down that road.
Because it was a known entity and was pointed out, and nobody did
We
anything
have
about it.
taken down
Yeah.
trees or been notified.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think we've had a few conversations on that from
Yeah.
time to time, especially as of late with the ash borer and everything else going kind of crazy.
So could we add this pollution piece if the board so chooses? I mean, could we approve this contract and then add the pollution piece at a not too distant future date, or is that something we really need to decide on tonight, I guess is my question?
No, it's actually, it would be a completely different carrier, and it's on standalone policy, so you could add it at any time.
That would help out fortifying, say we did have a big spill of diesel, we had a fish
Yeah.
die off, and then the item comes down, and help cover all that.
That's exactly what we do. So really what we would need to do to just kind of get some firm numbers to really look at, if I could get out of an application,
Okay.
kind of get that completed, and then we could have some, further to discuss there.
Maybe start in the new year with that, so we can all kind of chew on it a little bit. Okay, well,
Could that be prorated? I mean, our biggest hazard would be from the barge operation. If we're only doing that 6 months out of the year, can you get a half deal?
Probably not.
Most policies, they rate on the operations itself, so they do it in terms of a year, but if you look at what exposures they're gonna look at, it's gonna be based off of, the construction and what you're doing. So, yeah, it would be the same premium, whether it's 6 months or a year in length.
You might you might look at trying to offset that cost with bumping up some of these other deductibles. I don't know. I mean, I think of some of these deductibles in these categories are pretty small,
Yeah.
you know.
Well, is the board okay with going ahead and, if you have any other questions, I'll start with that for Lance, on the policy proposal. Are you okay with kind of then talking again maybe in January if he can get some numbers to Adam about this pollution recommendation? All right. Lance, anything else? I don't want to rush you, but we just need a motion, I think, to accept the professional services agreement, insurance agreement with First Insurance Group.
I move we accept it.
I'll second that. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Lance, thanks as always for taking care of us. You've spent lots of your life at these board meetings, so. See, I do have it. I just didn't want to take it long.
You gotta have the little thing to hit it on.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, just use Mike's head.
Hey.
Thank you.
Thanks,
Thank
man.
you.
Safe travels. Merry Christmas.
Good luck on the game.
All right. Mr. Treasurer, it's your turn. Thanks for waiting.
No problem. Okay, so October, $7,714 in income and $38,506 in expenses. They've got this all on one line, so I guess let me do both months together.
Sure.
Does anybody have any questions on the October financials and the October report of claims? November, we had $9,599 in income. Part of that was $6,920 in dredging and riprap income. And then we had $19,138 in expenses in November. So with that, if there are no questions for the November financial highlights or the report of claims, I'll accept a motion for approval.
And we can do that together, I think.
They've got them on the same
Yeah,
line. I
same
think that's
line,
okay.
sure.
So we're doing both months.
Say
We're
again.
doing both months then, October and November?
Yes.
And we're
Whatever
still
pleases the
doing-
board.
On the claims, we're still paying directly for the health insurance and not doing that stipend yet, is that right?
Yes, yeah. that was
Yeah, because I
started
was seeing
in
those payments
January.
for that.
Through the end of
Okay.
the
Yeah.
year, right.
Yep.
All right, once again, I seek a motion for approval of the October and November 2018 report of claims.
I'll make a motion.
Laura, thank you, makes that motion. May I have a second?
Second.
All right,
Can
is there any?
I go back and ask one question, though?
Sure. Any further
In Oc-
discussion?
In October, there was a notation on the Visa credit card bill that we paid, and it said AEDs, and I wondered
Oh,
what that was.
that's a
It was
good
under
thing.
medical
Those are
supplies.
good-
Automatic?
Defibrillators,
Electronic
automatic,
defibrillators.
electronic.
In case you have a heart attack.
Okay, well, I just kind of wondered what that was. I like.
We
Yeah,
got one in the
that?
bathhouse and one in the office, so
Okay.
that way we're kind of covered in
Okay.
Yeah,
both
we're
locations.
really glad to get
Okay,
those. That's-
thank you.
Which really, that becomes contents in the bathhouse, which probably you need to tell Lance
Yeah,
to
that's a
add
good
up
point.
the contents in the bathhouse.
That's a good point.
And then the other one's in the office.
Yeah.
Okay.
All right, any
Okay,
further
thank you.
questions?
That's a good question.
That's a great question. Any further questions? If not, it has been moved and seconded that we approve the October, November 2018 reports of claims. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries.
Next is, we always take the $5,000 out of the budget for cumulative maintenance fund to transfer to a certificate of deposit. And ironically, that certificate of deposit is up for renewal. So, Adam, do you want to give the interest rates that you sent us? I didn't. wasn't
Yeah, we
able
actually
to.
have, there's 3 CDs that are up for renewal. 2 are the cumulative maintenance fund and 1 is a general fund CD. The cumulative maintenance fund, we have 1 renewing that's currently worth $15,000.
Yeah, you got it.
And 1
Thank you.
renewing that is worth $16,062. We generally always add the 5,000 to that, but the current renewal rates are for 6 months, 2.15%, 12 months, 2.25, 18, 2.35, and 24, 2.5. And actually, since these are renewing on the 28th and the 30th, I'm not sure if we want to keep these separate or if we just want to combine them into one CD, since they are cumulative maintenance fund CDs. That would kind of help cut down on the number of CDs we're renewing.
I would be okay with
As long as you're gonna do
that.
the same term, like one was a 12-month and one was a 24-month, so I'm not sure what the rationale with that was, but.
And with the rates being essentially 2.25 and 2.5, I mean, if we just did the 12-month, then we're not really gaining any benefit by locking it up for another year.
Not huge.
So the recommendation is to combine them?
Yeah, so if we do
Here
that,
and
I would recommend that we renew, that we add $5,000 to the cumulative maintenance fund and renew and combine CDs ending in 3875 and 6988 for a period of 12 months.
And where's the 5,000 coming from that you're gonna add to
We
it?
budget some of that cumulative maintenance fund line item. We budget for that every year, $5,000 in that line item for the purpose of adding it into the CDs.
Okay, so we need a motion,
Yes.
what Adam said? How many, there were a lot of numbers in that one.
So wait,
Hold on.
now I don't understand. So.
He's
so
gonna combine those two and
why-
then add
no,
5,000.
I understand the what, I don't understand the why. Why do we?
Taking, just to kind of cut down on the number of CDs that we're having renewing.
I get that part, but why?
What's our policy?
What's our policy?
That's driving us to budget for and allocate 5,000 annually.
That, the cumulative maintenance fund, in case that we have a dam failure, major repair, so it's not covered by insurance
So
every
this
year.
is just to kind of keep.
It's a cushion in case we
Safety.
had a major dam repair, and that's actually, we can have three types of funds as a conservancy. It's a general cumulative maintenance and continuous maintenance. So this is the cumulative maintenance.
Maintenance.
So essentially, we just
Okay.
add 5,000 for a buffer for any major repairs.
We could
to
actually
infrastructure.
budget 10,000 a year if we wanted to. We
Yeah.
could budget any amount in there. Fire department's budget $500,000 for a fire truck.
Mhm.
But that's item number 6610 out of our budget, and we've just always done $5,000. That's just always been,
Okay, that's fine. Thank you.
Okay,
And then we have the motion on that. No.
yeah, so we need a motion to combine these,
number 3875, and what was the other one?
yeah,
6988.
6, 9,
Motion to combine, add, and renew.
Okay, and let me know later what line item that's going
Thanks.
into. If you're saying
6610.
you're budgeting it.
6610.
6610.
Shouldn't, we're probably not even on there.
No, it's not.
It's in the budget. That's why it's not on there. We don't use it.
No, it's not
So
expensive.
why are we only doing two of them?
And this next one is a general fund CD.
All right. Stop. Okay, I'm with you.
So we'll
Thank
need
you.
to motion to renew the general fund CD as well, which ends in 2722. And since the rates are pretty much the same, I would recommend that we just renew that for 12 months.
I would think so too, because you
Okay.
don't know what kind of money we're gonna need.
So the motion would be to combine the two,
This will be a separate motion.
Okay.
for that,
it's
yeah.
two different motions.
so we're starting with
Okay.
the- combining the two
Let-
and.
I move that we combine 6988 and
3875.
3875 and reinvest for a 12-month period.
And add the 5,000.
And add $5,000.
I second.
Thank you. It's been moved and seconded that we do the aforementioned. Any further questions or discussion?
The only thing, for the 12-month period?
Yes.
They said
I
that's, yeah.
yes.
Okay.
All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, motion number 2, and we need a motion to renew 2722. Have I
Yeah,
got
I
that
just
right?
recommend we do that for a 12-month period.
For 12 months? Anybody?
I make a motion, we renew that for 12 months.
Two-
I'm looking for 2722.
I'm looking for it too. How much is it?
It
It's
is
only
$5,095.
It's little.
It's a baby.
Yeah,
I don't think we have it.
it's right here.
Oh, gosh, yeah.
Here it
Oh.
is. Here it
And
is.
this is
Yeah, it came on the second
There it is.
email.
Yeah.
Thank you, okay.
Okay, to restate the motion, it's been moved that we renew number 2722 for a term of 12 months. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right. And then last piece.
Thank
is
you, Adam.
Transfer of
So-
And Mike, can you at some point provide us with a list of all of our CDs that are in the balance sheet and what their expiration dates are?
kind of a compilation of, so we can
Right,
see them all
yeah.
together.
I'll have
That would
to-
help.
Then we won't
We'll have to have Adam do it. I'm not on the bank, so,
Yeah.
That would be
either,
helpful to see that.
Yeah.
Okay.
so,
Yeah, it'd be good on one page, wouldn't it, or at least?
And there's a lot of them, too,
Together.
that's why it's nice to try to
Right.
slowly combine them as they're coming up together.
and there's only one line that says CDs on our balance sheet, so you're correct. Okay. Okay, every year, we have to do a transfer of funds because one account has either been overspent or whatever, so we balance these funds at the end of the year. And on it's page 39 on my packet. So,
38 in mine.
okay, page 38 or page 39. I didn't download the second email. So
Oh.
we have a balance transfer of funds of $50,380 to balance our budget for the end of the year. So before, if there's any questions, or,
So this is based upon what estimated where you think we'll be at the end of December on these expenses, and that this transfers enough money around so that
Yeah,
we
so
haven't
in the general
exceeded
fund,
any.
so no single line item is over our budgeted amount. And most of this is actually the 15,000 is the lake biologist, since we didn't use Andrew seasonally, so we're bringing the money out of the operations supervisor position for that. Did up a little bit of the dredger for private, just so we can finish private work that we're doing. And dredger, other we did have a heavy year for maintenance, debris, that type of stuff. $6,000 of it was diesel. That's actually because we just filled the diesel tanks not too long ago. Last year we didn't have to do that in the fall. And then 6,500 of it is for potential bathhouse repairs into the buildings and grounds expenses.
For potential repairs that you're planning on doing, you're saying, or?
Yeah. That's
This
a little bit-
month?
Yes.
And those
Into your
we're
budget.
going to talk about that in a minute.
Okay.
But yeah, so.
So all these budgeted numbers will change.
Do we need a motion for this?
yes.
We do.
And in addition to that, I thought I put everything away, but I would like to make mention that through the end of November, we've only spent 81.7% of our budget through the end of November. Still have 18.3% left in our budget at the end of November, which, is almost 20%. So really,
That's pretty good.
yeah.
So I don't see that we're transferring any money, for example, to fish management survey, which cost us $4,000 and it was not budgeted. So what's the magic line that we're trying not to exceed? Like, can we just not, with the state, I guess we're doing this as a requirement, we can't exceed it by some percent or some dollar amount?
We're just supposed to keep them all underneath, and I'm not even sure,
Underneath
I
what?
think we can technically overspend a line item, but it just looks better if we come in under.
I guess
the
I've
budget line
never
items.
experienced that before.
So this is why we are going to go
transferring
visit
budget, dollar it
Watkins
all up.
Accounting when, after the holidays are over, we're going to go maybe in January to
Right.
see. But if you look at the last page of our financials, and I think that's where you're at, you see the percent change?
Mhm.
Okay. And some of those are over 100%.
And that's what you want to say.
Well, I'm just looking specifically, I'm just,
Each
playing
line
devil's
item.
advocate. 6325 is a survey that we spent $4,000 on. We have nothing budgeted, and we're not gonna transfer any money to it in this transfer. I'm just making that point. So you might wanna look at that at least from what I printed off anyway.
All right, Mike, do you want to seek
Okay.
a motion here? I think.
Sure, if there's no more discussion, absolutely.
Oh, you want me to seek it? Okay.
No, well-
We need a motion to approve this transfer of funds discussed. Please.
I make a motion, we transfer funds.
I'll need a second.
Second.
All right, it has been moved and seconded that we approve this transfer of funds for 2018, $50,380. Is there any further discussion? If not, all those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? All right, motion carries. Okay, that brings us to another agenda item, our next agenda item. We want to have a preliminary discussion with the board about the potential for hiring a financial advisor in addition to our accountants as we plan to hopefully embark on the sediment management project. And I want to turn this over to Debbie to shepherd the discussion, because it really is, this is her area of knowledge, and she brought this before us as something that we really do need if we're going to embark on $1 million+ projects. And so I'm grateful, because I didn't know that, and I'd like you to tell us a little bit about the need and how you perceive us going forward.
Okay. Well, considering issuing bonds is really what's driving the issue, and the major project that we are embarking on. So in talking to the Finance Authority folks, we have to have a financial advisor on board, as do we have to have a lawyer that has experience in working with bond issues, and chatting with the volunteers that have done a great job over time, and Malcolm, about trying to put together these numbers and this financial analysis. I mean, we really do have to follow that process in order to be able to go to the state to issue bonds of any amount, whether it's $1 million, $2 million, $3 million. You have to have those people on board. We had kind of an off-the-cuff discussion a little bit about the accounting service we use, and it seems like, and Mike and I can meet with them after the end of the year and talk about that, but that's monthly accounting. That's somebody that's writing checks and things like that. It's not someone that's basically going to represent to bond holders as part of the due diligence that if you buy these bonds, that they're good for them, so that's just a process that we have to have. So we need to embark on looking to hire someone to provide that function.
And this is
I don't
the
know what
first
else
of-
you want me to
that's
say,
perfect.
but-
This is just very preliminary, but we need to move on it early in the new year. But I wanted the board to kind of hear this, and if you had questions or thoughts, to kind of get them out tonight. And then I think the thought is that if we'd like to have the board's blessing to kind of move ahead with this, is where I'm sitting.
So what do these people charge?
Oh, well, it's probably not gonna be cheap,
Yeah, I mean,
and what it would be rolled into, here's the thing, like, you have to go through a process where you really pull together what your financials are and what the project is gonna be. We've got step one done, we've got an engineering report, we have their estimates. The people at the Indiana Finance Authority would meet with them, and they say, okay, these are your estimates, okay? But then we've got to let everything out for bid, and those numbers might be different. So I mean, typically your bond issuance costs and all those things kind of get rolled up into, what you're overall going to end up having to borrow, So it's, it's not cheap. There's just a certain amount of work that needs to be
But
done.
we have it in our budget though, and we approved the budget last time, right? And
This is new.
This would
whether
be
it
new and tied up in the sediment.
so, I mean, can we add it after, like, next time, or if we're wanting to do it in 2019?
Or you're saying it's gonna come out of the budget that we've already approved for the dredging? Is it, you said
No.
what we rolled into that, or it's
No.
separate? Okay.
Well, I think-
What I'm saying is that wherever we end up on this sediment management project, and we heard from our engineers at our last meeting that we really need to do phase 1 and phase 2, so we need to put some hard work into really looking at, what those steps are. But to even pull $1 million down, it's not like as was kind of relayed to me, it's like a line of credit, and you can just go like pull the money. I mean, this is, you know, serious due diligence that has to be done. We have to have a lawyer
Yeah,
that
so I
stands
guess my
behind it. We have to have a
question is,
CPA firm, and they said, and it can't be, you know, somebody like Watkins. I mean, it has to be one of the people that they're used to working with that is trained in this area and can do this. I mean,
For
you know,
example,
so-
your former
Right,
firm that you work
right.
with, BKD, is someone you'd have us look at. and-
right, yeah.
So if we
can
wanted to
compare
do this in
costs.
2019, though, we need a line item, right?
Well,
Well-
we could do it probably within one of our line items. I think just the initial steps are looking for what the cost and companies are gonna potentially be.
But I mean, are we talking 50,000 or? maybe?
I think you'd be talking 50.
Well, one of
Not for like a $3 million bond or something like that, but,
You say you don't think we'd be talking 50? So less than 50?
I mean, don't hold me to that, but I
No,
mean,
I
I
know.
kinda look at
We're
what
trying to
we
get a
build our
ballpark.
clients to do some of this stuff. I mean, part of it starts with, what can the state board of accounts do? They're gonna look at audits, and then, you know, basically an accountant comes in to do due diligence, and then they say, okay, well, we have your audit report as of, say, December 31st. Now we've gotta walk it forward, like what's happened since then. They're gonna look at it to say, do you have the tax revenues, and do you have the revenues that will support the payback of these bonds? So
Mhm.
it really is all about leveraging. I'm not really sure how much we could even qualify for, given our current financials.
Mary Jane, you had a thought?
Well, I was just gonna say, you know, on the SPC, we've talked about some of this, and if we're willing to spend the kind of money that we're spending on the engineering firms, then we need to be willing to spend the money to do it right and to, and,
Well, there's no choice, really.
Yeah, right, exactly.
We can't get the
Well-
money if we don't do it.
well, and I think that there's another piece to this, and that's the larger work around
Getting all the money.
fundraising done, doing big-time development work. And so it just seems like this is an appropriate step for us to move toward, because, you know, we're not a bunch of, no offense, but it doesn't feel like we're a bunch of financial wizards here, other than maybe,
But
maybe
I
a
couldn't
couple of people,
serve, but even in my retired capacity, I couldn't do that, you know, I mean, you have to.
That's when you got my
you know.
attention. I thought, wow, well, she can help us with this. He said, oh, no, this is not
No.
good.
Well, I have a suggestion, because we've bonded in the fire service before.
Right.
So, and in 2 decades, we had Kroger, Gardis, and Regis as our attorneys, and then we had Ice Miller because of change in demographics.
Right.
So what we did was we asked them to get us a lawyer. And then we
Get you
asked.
an accountant, yeah.
And to get
Because
us
Ice
some-
Miller's an accountant, right.
Um,
Or Ice Miller's
They're the-
lawyers.
they're the-
Those
right.
are our lawyers, but they got us the accountant as well, so they know who to get. So I would ask, or make a suggestion that we have Adam talk to Angela and have her tell us, you know.
Angela.
Parker, is that right?
Yes.
I think I could put us with the resources that we need.
Oh, okay.
I mean, I'll tell
Then-
you what, when I talk with them, I mean, she just like listed off all the normal players, you know,
When you talk
because
to-
she can't even be our attorney.
No,
When
no, I
I
don't-
talked to the Indiana.
I wouldn't want her to be our
bond,
attorney, but typically she would know somebody that,
Mhm.
now are you looking at somebody in Bloomington, or are you looking at somebody?
I don't know who in Bloomington would be qualified to do that.
I don't know, when I was talking with CBU, because I wanted to see if they had any internal financial
Right,
advisors, and they
they
do
might.
not, and they contract out with Crow out of
Right.
Indianapolis.
Crow Chisholm,
Pro,
Crow Chisholm.
BKD, you
Right.
know, those are kind of similar size.
So we'll probably have to go to
national
Indianapolis.
firms. Yeah. Yeah, and when she was kind of giving me even just some of the names, you know, of some of the firm, I mean, I worked on a lot of bond issues when I was like on the CPA side of things, you know.
So you're gonna come back then with recommendations?
I can.
Okay.
Mhm. But we kind of got to know what size project we're going to do.
Well, and that's where, yeah,
Yeah.
that's where we
And-
still have a couple of blanks to fill in, I think, in
Right.
terms of
Right
the
up in my
layout.
document.
I don't think we need a motion particularly. I think I just wanted to get a general
Do
barometer.
you have this? Do you have a copy of this?
yeah,
I think I have.
Everybody
Not
else
yet.
So,
has
yeah,
got it.
it's online too.
Okay.
But we can coordinate that.
Right.
I mean, you know,
Okay.
we just have some work to do on the
Okay.
timing. You guys are going to talk about the meeting we had with the fundraising people, right?
We talked about that in the SPC, actually.
We talked in the
can-
SPC.
She'll mention it in her
but-
report.
Well,
It kind of all ties in.
it all
It
ties
does.
in.
It
In
does.
fact,
I
I
thought it
would
might be
say,
good for you
since
to say
Debbie
it.
helped
That's
us
fine.
organize that, go ahead.
Yeah.
Go ahead. And
Okay, so we were talking about the
Or
whole
we could tag
project.
team.
Right, we can tag team it. So we were talking about the project that we're embarking on that we have to have done. And so I basically suggested that we meet with a fundraising consultant. You know, you have to have a case statement, you have to know how to go to people, you know, do we go to people and do we scare them? You know, do we go to people, like, what can our project look like? We had quite a bit of brainstorming amongst some of us just about, you know, if we made our, you know, park and beach area more attractive, I mean, would that be some way to gather in money also, you know, to do this sediment management project? So with that in mind, we met November 14th with Angela White, who is the president and CEO of Johnson Grossnickel Associates, and Adam and Pam and Mary Jane and I met with her. And I think that she, you know, we kind of went through the whole list of, you know, what our possible sources of revenue could be, who might be interested in the lake, how we might be able to generate money. She did not think that we needed to do a feasibility study because we really have no choice. It's not like we're not gonna do the project, we have to do the project. So she gave us just some pretty simple guidance, suggesting we start with freeholders and, you know.
And we're talking
come up-
about donations here, not
Yeah.
tax. That would- because
Right.
we-
Come up
We
with
know we
the-
have to come up with money
And-
outside of our tax
And we're
base.
talking about sizable donations.
Right,
Mhm.
right.
And again, this is something where if we're gonna spend a lot of money, maybe we need to invest in learning how to get a lot of money. And one of the things that Angela also, we talked about briefly, and this is something that we may want to consider, is she would be, we could hire her to train us on how to ask for this kind of money and to kind of get started on that path. So I think it was time, certainly I felt time well spent
Mhm.
with her to get our thinking clear about how we need to approach doing this.
I mean, we basically went through all the interested parties or stakeholders that we might be able to approach. You know, would it be, you know, environmental granting agencies, you know, large corporations, you know, people who has vested interest, and obviously the biggest issue was to really try to see if we could get donations from some of the freeholders, both working through Brown County and Monroe County, but we've got to have a succinct case statement. And within that whole situation, you know, we just decided we've got some more work to do to
Mhm.
get our ducks in a row.
All right, and the SPC has talked about this too. I mean, so, but we need something that will anchor us to get that message put together and to learn the techniques of how to do it. So that's the other
That's
piece.
the food for thought, but,
Mhm.
all right, well, like I said, I don't think we need a motion, but I think that, it seems like you're all nodding your heads and this is a good thing. Okay,
What was the lady's name that you spoke with?
Angela White, and she's with she's the president of Johnson Grossnickel. Very nice lady. Appreciates Debbie's contact on that, and she didn't charge us to meet with her, at least preliminarily.
Well, and she said she'd be happy to look at if we came up with a one-page
Yeah.
thing, kind of describing the
Yeah.
problem and how we were gonna attack it. I mean, she had some very good suggestions,
She really
you know.
did.
And she'd be happy to take a look at it, be happy to help us out and then come down and speak to the board or, you know,
She
the
was great.
SBC, whomever.
I think one of the other things that I walked away, because, you know, it's, the messaging is gonna be really, really important. And it's one thing to talk to a freeholder about donating money, because people live on the lake, they love the lake, they wanna help the lake. But if I don't live on Lake Lemon, why on earth would I give you a dime? And so we need to think more broadly about what the message is to non-freeholders. because I think we can get money from other people, I just think we need a message. And it probably has something to do with improving the natural environment, protecting wildlife, creating wetlands. But you gotta have the elevator speech to say, this is what it is and why we need it.
And this is something we'll be working on pretty quickly in the new year and potentially with our workshop that we're going to be determined with the board to bring back. All right, thanks Debbie, very much for kind of getting us organized. The conflict of interest forms, we're going to separate out the Marina Club agreement and boat permit sales from the long list we have in the manager's report. That way, and Laura has already submitted those and signed them. That way Laura can then vote without having to abstain parts of the next segment. So everybody have a chance to look at those. They're the exact same as last year. Like I said, Laura's already signed and submitted her conflict of interest. May I have a motion to approve the Marina Club agreement and boat permit sales? And I think we can do that
And I
together.
abstain from that.
Pardon me?
And I have to
And you have to
abstain
abstain from this
yes.
one, correct.
So moved.
Seconded. Any questions? All those in favor?
Aye.
Thank you. Any
Aye.
opposed? Okay, thank you. Motion carries. All right, managers report.
All right, most of us have a 2019 agreements that we do every December coming up. Has everybody had a chance to review the 2019 agreements that we have? Some of the standards are surplus parcel agreement. Those rates were set when we approved the budget. Fees, commercial surplus agreements, we actually have those for Sands and Sands with the porthole and pops dock and lifts to operate commercial docks on the lake. We have an agreement for the use of Riddle Point Park, Boys and Girls Club. That's actually a mandated one in our lease saying we can't charge them more than $1 to use it. We have our Marina Club agreements, which is Bloomington Yacht Club. Riddle Point Park use agreement with the Riddle Point Rowing Association, who actually utilizes the Boys and Girls Club as well. The 2019 IU rowing team agreement, and IU is only going to be hosting one regatta this year, the Dale England Cup. They're not going to have any other regattas or tournaments.
Really?
So they're actually
That fee was like $400.
yeah, it's $400 for a special event. Generally, for the park, it's $200, but we charge them more because they do have lake patrol out there and put out buoys. So those are just going to be the one event for the $400. We have Watkins Accounting, which is the same price for $450, and then Carmen Parker, which the rates are the same for legal services.
You skipped the sailing club, which is number 6, and it's exactly the same too. I didn't hear you mention that.
Number 6 is the Riddle Point Rowing Association.
You may have the old version. I deleted that out of there.
Oh,
Yeah,
yeah,
that-
because they
Oh.
don't exist anymore.
No, yeah, they do not exist anymore.
Oh.
I have the old version.
Sorry.
I got the old one too, sorry. All right.
IU Sailing Club no longer exists?
No, yeah, they actually,
Kicked
due
them
to
out.
insurance reasons, IU is kind
Yeah.
of pushing all their clubs off of IU property for liability. So they are off the water and sold all their boats.
So who owns that property?
IU owns it, so the rowing association is still there, but the sailing club, the club sports were all mandated to leave. And that was actually kind of one of the things that prompted the ski club being able to get
So,
the
and
dock.
I don't see a ski club here.
Yeah, we don't, they would just do a sublease agreement for their dock.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
Yeah.
we don't have to have
All right.
this.
So that's
Okay.
just a standard sublease
I think we can
agreement.
do them
Like
all
our-
at one time.
I believe we can bundle these all together. If anybody has any questions, speak now.
Quick question. Now, the guy that was doing the fishing guide service, has he not
He
been
disappeared
around?
this year. We upped the prices to the commercial rates, and he was
He went
nowhere
out
to
of
be found.
business?
Okay.
I think he's probably solely at Monroe now.
More fish for me.
So
There
you
you go.
think that our pricing is, where it needs to be? It's
Sands and Sands can just
competitive,
go
we're not
right
over
down
the.
to the-
It's
I kind
competitive.
of looked at all these agreements, I'm like, we're only at $500,
Yeah,
That
yeah.
was kind of like.
I think they're pretty competitive,
Okay.
and really to the point where if we raise these type of agreements much more, we're
Right.
kind of outing ourselves. So
All right, I'd entertain a motion to approve the professional service agreements as discussed in a group.
So moved.
Second,
Second.
please. All right, any further discussion? All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you.
Also, we have the board elections update after that. Michael Blackwell is running unopposed, so we'll not have election. And Mike, to
All
go
right.
back to us.
I don't know if it's congratulations or
One
condolences.
more nomination.
Glutton for punishment.
That saves us a lot of work for the repair. T-shirt for
Thanks
the-
for stepping up.
No, you're welcome. Thank you.
Well, at least you knew what you were getting into.
That's
I
true.
didn't.
That's true. But that bodes well for you, Debbie. See, people don't run. Okay. All right.
After that, we have a bathroom repair quote here. Actually, Bill, Les, and Frank met with Tim Roth, who's here, about some potential bathroom repairs. I actually met with Tim earlier in the week, or last week, to look at some of those repairs. The biggest changes that we're looking at is combining stalls in the men's and ladies' restrooms, essentially taking out two and creating an ADA accessible. So
I
yes,
got it, Frank.
not fully compliant, but ADA accessible. Then also some general upgrade. We're talking about putting some more trim along the bottom where we tore it up before, enclosing our electrical closets and some of the shower rooms. So what I'd like to do is,
Anything on the floors, or, I mean,
no, it does not include the floors. And I mean, part of it too, I think the biggest factors of these is gonna be the ADA accessible part. And then going much more above this, when we start getting to the floors, it kind of enters the realm of how much do we
How much we
spend on the
spend on this,
bathrooms if we're
yeah.
looking at redoing them in the future.
so this is
But-
just
Can I jump
knocking-
in here because
Yeah.
this came out at the last SBC
Right.
meeting, and Les, you may want to speak up too. One of the things that we discussed at the SBC was a plan that Les and Bill Souter and Michael Klitzing and Frank Van Overmeren had put together for potential upgrades to the park and the park facilities.
Oh, okay.
So there's a short, medium, long-term plan.
Mhm.
And then there was kind of in the short-term piece, this low-hanging fruit, if you will, that we could do something that would make those washrooms a little more tolerable in a short period of time. So this isn't like renovating the bathhouses, it's.
Darn it.
Also reducing risk.
Reducing
of
risk,
incurring,
basically.
Yeah,
So-
liability
Well said.
from not being ADA compliant.
You know, we talked about the black smokestacks too. Did you guys talk to the contractor about that? Is that doable or?
No, we did not. We actually, the park, the maintenance budget that we have, we're right at the line of that, so we did transfer $6,500 in there. So that'll be something we'll have to look at next year if we do want to try to raise those stacks up.
Okay, I was thinking we had 10 for this, or am I mistaken? Was it 5?
You were dreaming.
That's in the 2019 budget.
Yeah, we put 10
Oh,
for
that's,
2019.
that's right.
Okay.
In next year's
Yeah.
budget, there's more.
You're
All
right, that's,
okay,
it is.
yeah.
But we did just vote to throw 5 extra in.
That's what,
Yeah.
yeah.
No, I mean, we
For
put
next
5
year.
extra in the CDs, is what I'm saying, you know.
For the cumulative maintenance fund? Yeah.
Yeah.
But these are,
But we,
this
but
is
we do have
Band-Aid.
other money.
Yeah, we have plenty of money in the budget for
This
those.
is Band-Aid stuff, because we gotta redo that bathroom. I mean,
Yeah.
Because, you know, it sits on top of
I'll hold
the
that.
Let's
the
not-
cesspool. I mean, and that's why it smells so bad, and that's, you know, technology from London before they had sewers, you know, I mean, that's
Sadly, it may be,
awful,
you're right.
awful. So we
Got
gotta,
the
we gotta
pollution
do
policy,
something.
we just drill a hole and put it right in the
Yeah.
Well, I'm fine with it as long as, like you're saying, it's a Band-Aid, and the issue is anything we're doing here just gonna get redone if we redo the bathrooms? And I don't know what your medium and your long-term goals are, but, you know, is any of this going to waste? Or are we just gonna have to?
This is mostly
redo some of
structural
this?
changes on the inside to increase the ADA accessibility and then decrease public access into our storage areas and electrical
I
lock.
mean, ultimately, yeah, it'll go to waste in a few years, but, you know, at least we'll be working towards, you know, is it
So
compliance?
you know
We gotta be able to do
how-
stuff now.
Working toward
Compliance or?
ADA compliance. We really don't have.
Reasonable accommodation.
Yeah.
Essentially risk
Reasonable
reduction.
accommodation.
This is eliminating negligence. We're creating reasonable accommodation for ADA accessibility. and we're reducing risk because our electrical panels are exposed to the public.
Right.
And we have crummy shower areas that are a hazard to the public. So
Not
this first piece, its intent was to rapidly get it done, to spend available 2018 budget dollars before we lose 2018. Then there would be potentially some more things that we do later on to further improve and buy time.
I was gonna call on you, Tim, because you'd be doing the work.
Well, I just wanted to let you guys know, it's more of a demolition. We're gonna be taking more block and stuff out. So you're not gonna be losing a lot of materials when you go to redo it.
Right.
There's not gonna be a lot of expense lost in materials. It's more of a
Okay.
demolition we're taking out. I think
Reconfiguring.
there's 4 block walls that we're taking out on the inside to actually make 2 stalls one and to eliminate some of the other shower rooms.
Well, not to
So-
micromanage, but will those stalls have like sinks in them then? Like, you know how at least, you know, you go into a handicap stall and there's
No.
a sink and
No,
there's
No.
everything
Not
that's
yet.
space
there.
has
No.
access.
It's gonna have handrails.
Okay.
Yeah.
It's gonna have some of the stuff that it's basically gonna be assisted ADA.
Mhm.
Just better than what we've got now.
Correct.
So, and I'm hoping you can do this work like when it's not summer, is it
No, it'll be done before spring.
for your own benefit?
We actually have to have it
Sits on a
done.
septic tank.
Yeah.
Okay.
If we're doing this on this
Refund
budget, it
will
has to
send
be
right
done
up
this
state.
month.
Yeah, oh, I know.
You need to
Right,
do it
stacks.
before Christmas.
Yeah, it's gonna be done this year,
Oh.
it's gonna be on this budget.
I guess that's true. You have that kind of flexibility. Good. All right, so I think we need a motion to.
Yeah, I just
approve.
I don't wanna approve it, a contract is, I wanna approve, hiring Roth Contracting for up to and including the 63,340.
6,300.
6,000.
6,340. You get a new bathhouse, guys, new bathhouse.
So
I'll second that.
could I have?
I'll make that motion.
And I'll second.
All right, any further question or discussion for
No.
Tim or Adam? Okay. All
Who
those in-
seconded that?
Laura did.
Laura did.
I just haven't looked at the bathrooms that much, and when we had that public meeting and Mary Jane said, boy, those bathrooms look a lot better, and I got back from the bathroom and I'm like, what is she talking about? They look a lot clean.
Yeah, lots of complaints.
Okay.
It's all
Very good.
relative.
Yeah, it is.
All right, it's been moved and seconded that we approve up to, what was the number, 6,300?
6,348.
$48, the restroom repairs to be completed prior to the end of the calendar year. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Thank you. Strategic Planning
Well,
Committee.
can I have a question for the manager on dredging?
What? Oh, on dredging. Oh, under his manager's report, sure. I guess we don't have dredging
Oh,
on
did you have
that.
anything else on
One dredge? No.
In the October meeting, you guys said you did 3 riprap jobs and 1 private job in the October meeting.
Potentially, I'd have to go back and
Okay.
listen to that, yeah.
Since the October meeting, we went through November and then part of December. Have we done any other private jobs?
Yeah, we actually are on target to exceed the $20,000 income goal that we were looking at,
that? Oh,
yes.
good.
I've got my private lists and I'm trying to cross people off. I still have that nice little lady, Mrs. Green, that lives in District 1, that wants to be dredged. And then Gene Curry, I spoke with him. He got a call that you guys were looking to riprap his area. Did we?
We're done for the year, but we ended up doing 6 riprap jobs.
Maybe a couple more.
Maybe a couple more. The private dredging that we did was only in Icebox Cove, and the rest of it riprap jobs.
Okay. I'd like to just get these crossed off my list. So if Andrew or you, Adam, could
Is
send
that the
me.
private dredging list?
This is a private dredging list. This is the riprap list.
No, all right.
I'll get those after the meeting.
Now, this is the list that's
Mike,
online.
Did you hear Andrew?
No.
He said he'd look at them after.
I have the
If you
names
give them to
memorized,
him
I
after
did
the meeting.
invoices, so.
Oh, okay. This is the list that you have online.
Okay.
And it needs to be updated. So
You want to get with him after the
I
meeting?
can,
and see
I
if
can
we
do that. Okay,
Get your
thank you.
files up to date.
Thank you.
Updated. Probably just take off.
Okay, Strategic
2014.
Planning Committee, Mary Jane.
Okay,
Now, I should preface this by saying Mary Jane was throwing a huge party after this meeting, so she might have missed a few details, but you really didn't. Your report's good.
Much of my report has already been discussed, so I'm going to go back and pick out the things that I think we discussed that didn't get talked about here. Number one, and probably most important, is we finally have a rep from District 2 on the SPC, and we welcomed him at our last meeting. It's Kevin Fagan. He's back there in the baseball cap.
Thank you, Kevin.
From District
Welcome.
2, and we're delighted that he's joined us. And he is going to work initially with the Lake Health Task Group. Adam introduced a couple of people to us at this meeting from Eco Infrastructure and Heartland Dredging. And these guys are basically dredging experts, and it was just we had a general discussion about different dredging techniques and best practices. And he had reconnected with them at the NALMS conference, which he also gave us an update on from November. And then you know that Les, Bill, and Frank reviewed a draft plan for improving the park, and we're not ready to make recommendations other than this very short-term one.
Mm-hmm.
But there will be, as this plan gets cemented, more recommendations for the park and more on the bathhouses. And then we talked about what Debbie talked about. And that was it. Our next SPC meeting is going to be Friday, January 18th at 3:30 at the office. And that's my report.
Thank you. Any questions for Mary Jane? All right.
No, the only thing that I don't know if you want to bring this up, but the SBC, you guys had thought about having like another public meeting, right? And we just decided we're not really gonna move toward that at this juncture. I don't know if you want to bring that up, but.
Not right now.
Right.
Only because we felt that
Right.
there wasn't something new. So
Yeah, we all
I think
agreed on that. I just want to be sure everybody knew that.
I think that when we do the board offsite, that was going to be a
Yep.
time to discuss
Absolutely.
that kind of communication.
Meanwhile, the entire sediment management report from Shrewsbury is available online, in case you didn't know that. Frank, you were mentioning we needed to release it. It is online. So
Available to all.
anybody can look at it, review it.
Yeah, it's on our front page under the latest news. There's a link there to the whole report.
Have they revised it somewhat? You know how when they came and presented and started talking about these lines are really going here, and I think Frank pointed out some of so has it been revised, or what was presented to us is out?
That's the final conceptual design, so
Okay.
any modifications will come as we have more
Okay.
information.
Okay, okay.
All right, that brings us to public comment. You guys have been very patient. Don't forget I have a gavel and no.
And we'll use it.
No, I'm kidding. Anybody have any thoughts, comments, questions? Frank?
Please.
You just eliminated one of my two, but I have a different comment. I didn't hear clarity from the board as it addressed how we would fund, Les started the topic, but how would we fund the financial advisor and potentially the fundraising advisor? So is the board looking that this is something that would be acquired by doing an appropriation from the general fund, and we'd be hiring these people in 2019 and keep these projects moving along? Or are we going to stall and wait to the budget of the 2020 year to insert budget items for hiring these consultants? So I just wanted to hear some discussion on clarity of scheduling, funding, sources, that kind of stuff.
Well, we've spent 81.7% of our money through November. That leaves a little bit more than $109,000 left in our budget for December. I doubt that we spend $20,000 this month. So we'll have $80,000 that we're going to roll into 2019. We don't have any barge to be bought, we have no trucks to be bought, we have nothing to be bought. I would almost guess, and Adam can jump in here anytime, we'll roll $80,000 into 2019 of available money that we could use for these advisors. Would be one cachet. Another one would be to just take part of the $1 million. I mean, if it's only going to be $50,000 or $100,000, I don't know.
Well, we'll have to start paying them as they're doing work for us,
Right.
and then
You can't
whether or
use the
not.
million, you gotta get the
right.
million.
But we've got to have these bond issuance costs
Yeah.
that accumulate, and then we write it off over some period
And
of
then
time.
what would happen is then we transfer funds at the end of the year, like we just did tonight, for those appropriations.
Yeah, since we have budgeted the million in expected revenue, essentially in 2019, we can spend up to that $1,600,000, whatever it is. So even say we needed to start doing this before we had the bonds, since we have that in the budget, we can use our general fund monies that we do have in the accounts, and still stay within budget. So
I think that was a very good question.
we would
That
have
is a
the
good question.
real money to be able to do that.
So moving forward now, not waiting for another year.
Exactly.
Right.
Yes,
Yeah,
it's an excellent
exactly.
question. Debbie, can I ask a question without sounding like I'm asking for something? But is there any chance that you might find a willingness on the part of your former firm, should we decide to go with them, to perhaps donate part of the services or discount the services because there is an interest? As you mentioned, the managing partner is a Lake Lemon fellow. Is there
Right.
is there a way to
I think there
approach that?
probably is, yeah.
Yeah, once again, it sounds a little greedy, but we're talking
No, I was
about-
thinking the same thing. I'm like, I wonder if Ted would just chip on all those.
Well, I mean, we
I don't know
have-
about it. I mean, it's a pretty small
like Ted.
project. These projects go, I mean,
He's a great guy.
you know,
And I think he'd do it.
it's, for us, it's big, but,
Maybe-
you know, a lot of times people are issuing bonds that are, as Michael would say, much bigger bond
Right,
issues than
right.
that, but there still is some level of work that needs to be done.
Sure.
Well, and I will give Frank credit on this. I mean, Frank is a prime example of someone who has donated services
Right.
in excess of double-digit thousands
Right.
via your company to the lake.
Well,
So-
and now we actually have the luxury that we didn't when I provided previous things to the board, but we have the luxury now that her firm could donate money to one of our two funds that could then
Right.
be reallocated as an expense
Right.
to hire the firm back again. So it's
Okay.
kind of a
Yeah.
multi-step thing,
Right.
but there's a way that they could
They could
cover
do
their
that.
own cost and receive a formal deduction where I didn't have that option.
Right.
So.
Okay, well, you've set the example on that, so that's kind of where my head is.
Yeah, I'll talk to
Okay.
Ted about that.
Okay.
Yeah, I had a number of things to say about the bonding. I'll forget some of them because they're kind of disparate. But so, first of all, we are looking to hire a community advisor. That's what there's an official name for this. There are about 10 of them in the state of Indiana, and most of them are attached to like large accounting firms or law firms. Okay, so Ice Miller has one, others like that. It is going to be relatively expensive, right? But it'll end
A
up being like
community advisor.
a community advisor, yeah.
And what's their role?
They are some kind of a certified public accountant that knows bonding. That's their specialty.
Is this the same thing
Oh,
that
well,
Debbie's
we're talking about the
I think
same
we're talking about
thing.
Yeah, we're talking about the same thing.
Fund.
Yeah,
We're
she's
talking about
calling
the
it
same
the
thing.
financial
I never
advisor.
thought-
and you're
But
calling it
Yeah.
community.
my
Okay.
point is that
Yeah.
there is bridge funding available for us, so we could actually start work this coming year. Without having gotten the bond yet. It's going to take us 9 months to get the bond at least, okay? But there is bridge funding available as long as we've got that person on staff, on
Okay.
payroll, or,
Retainer.
On
Retainer,
retainer.
that's the word.
Yes.
We need the person
So
on
that's
retainer.
kind of the urgency, is that once we get that person, in pocket here, then we can move forward and get bridge funding, and then we get the bond to cover it.
Okay.
So, there was something else, and I forgot what it is already, so.
If you think of it, you can do what Mary Jane and I do, and I do with my mother. You can just say breaking in, because when it comes back, you have to get it there. That's an age thing. Well, so is it feasible, Debbie, for us to have something concrete to vote on in January?
No.
Next,
Like
is that-
something
is that crazy?
concrete, like in terms of estimated fees? Or,
I
I mean,
guess
we've got to
the
have the project, and
Okay.
how are we gonna break
Okay.
it down? And we're just gonna try to issue bonds for like phase one? Is that what we're gonna do right now? And how do we
Okay.
go to the Indiana Bond Bank with it. I mean, I say we really have to talk about phase 1 and 2.
I talked to the gal the lady from Ice Miller, who actually lives in Fort Wayne. She said she would be happy to come down and talk at a meeting if you want to hear from
Is this one of a community advisor?
Yes,
Is that okay?
right.
Okay. Yes.
Basically,
Well,
you have to have bond counsel, you have to have a lawyer, and you have to have a CPA.
Right.
That's pretty much it.
Sometimes it's one person.
Right.
Not very often,
Right.
but sometimes it's one
Right,
person.
right. Maybe we can talk about that. Mike and I can try to get
I
together.
got contacts at Ice Miller, I got contacts
Yeah.
at Kroger, Gardas and Regis. I mean,
Right.
if it's
Right.
gonna be, I didn't think we'd be in Indianapolis. I thought we'd have someone local.
I don't, yeah.
Okay.
Talking to
Maybe you guys
CPU,
can-
yeah, it seems that all they deal with is Indianapolis.
Barnes
I
and
mean,
Thornburg would be the
we,
third.
you know, people like BKD or Crow or whoever, we've
You know-
got offices in Bloomington, but the people that do the bond stuff.
If you
are kinda-
understand Indianapolis politics, it's whoever's in power. So the Democrat mayor, they're using Ice Miller right now. So Barnes and Thornburg are looking for work. You know,
That's interesting to know.
and so, yes. And
One of I make two suggestions here, because we've heard the names of various firms. I think maybe the first step is to figure out who we're gonna use.
Right.
And the other thing I would say is, since we don't know how much this is gonna cost, would it make any sense for the board to approve up to a certain dollar amount in advance, so that we don't lose time?
What do you think?
You know, no matter who we end up.
I would ask Malcolm or Frank. I mean, I'd ask your committee.
When I talked to the people at the
Well, I
bond
think
bank.
this is it's a board decision.
I
Currently, we have
understand it's a board
50,000
decision, but
in the consulting, but I don't know if we want to say we're going to tie that up just for financial management yet. If we are going to have some more work that needs to be done on the project side to get finalized costs.
Well, that's true too. Well, then maybe my only suggestion is that we need to as quickly as possible, find out who the people are that you're considering.
Yeah.
And come back to the board with a
So
recommendation.
you'll be talking to Ted in a month?
Within a month.
Within a month?
Our next meeting is the 24th of January. The next SPC meeting is the 18th, just for your.
And I can call 2 law firms in Indianapolis and come back and report on the 24th.
Yeah, and really the thresholds are anything under 50,000, we can just select 50 to 100. We just have to have quotes from the different entities. And then if we're talking over $100,000 benchmark, then we have to do an official bid process.
I mean, the biggest thing we need are the financials. You know,
Yeah.
we've got these estimates right now, and the biggest thing we need really are the financials. And so I think we really actually need a meeting with the State Board of Accounts and the financial advisor. I mean, and the attorney does come in at the end to do all the bond documents and all that, but it's really with the Indiana Bond Bank that we would get with, you know. I was thinking you were talking about the Finance Authority. Why am I thinking that we're there
Well, there's
and
2
not the
places we
bond
could
bank?
go.
Yeah.
But I think
others-
the Indiana Finance
Yeah.
Authority is probably not it, because we'd have to meet certain requirements. It's probably, we'd go through the bond bank.
And when I talked to the Finance Authority, they were saying that this may fall underneath the state revolving fund, which if it
Well, that's
does-
where I thought,
Yeah, okay.
Malcolm, like, the person that you asked me to
That could
call
be
that I
the
talked
item.
to was the Indiana Finance Authority, and that is the easier road to go, I believe. And it would fall under that revolving, and then remember how we talked about, I said if they had sewer and this, that, we just need to have another separate meeting. We kinda need to decide who's the financial team that's gonna work on this from,
Exactly.
between the board and the SPC, and I would say one of these guys that's.
Yeah, well, Malcolm has
tied
done the
into the
line, on the
engineering
committee,
and-
Malcolm has done the lion's share of the
Mhm.
work, so there's no reason that he can't work with you
Right.
and Mike and
That
figure
makes
this
good
out.
sense. Frank?
I'd recommend that the board assign a task group to work
Right.
in the next 30 days, get the information from Mike.
That's kind of what we're.
Right.
Deborah and
That's
Malcolm
what it
potentially
said.
be the task group. Let them identify a couple, 3 firms, have a telephone conference call with a representative of each of the 3 firms, vet them in some manner, like Malcolm and I and Adam did with the Shrewsbury groups that we eventually ended up with Shrewsbury.
Right.
And come up to having two sets of potential work scope statements and proposals, one for the bridge loan piece that gets started right away, and then another one that identifies work scope tasks and pricing range. So this way the board at the January meeting could approve something to get started for potentially a bridge loan to get the first $1 million worth of work done, and then have continued discussion that eventually could contract with the second phase of work to get the big loan for phases 2 and 3 combined. This way you're not stalled, trying to wait for everything to happen at one time. We could still get something done in 2019. Or at least you get something started between now and the January meeting.
Right.
You could choose a different direction, but at least you're vetting a couple, 3 firms, you're getting work scope of what the firms would recommend as the steps that each of them need to provide, and you'll get a cost range for the piece that can easily be identified, and get ranges of cost for the parts that still have unknowns to them.
Got it. So Debbie, do you have this kind of time to do some version of what we're all kind of talking about? We're
I
all
think
talking
you're
about
getting
similar things.
like, I don't think we need all those steps really, initially. I think that we've really got to figure out what the State Board of Accounts can give us, talk to this Finance Authority. I mean, I wasn't really prepared to talk at length about this. I had a lot of my notes from a meeting a couple of months ago. But it's not like, how large were your bond issues?
Oh, $1 million to build a fire station, $1.5 million, $2 million.
What was the payout period?
10 years.
10 years, okay, so there's a special program that'll do 10 years and less and $2 million and less.
City
So then you don't need
Securities.
the community advisor.
Did you go to
vote.
City Securities? Did you try City Securities at all in Indianapolis?
I have not, no.
Okay. I mean, I will call them just to see. I know we're on a 20-year.
20 years, what we probably need for a payout, and
Isn't that
requires
what
the
20
community advisor in the whole.
It is a 20-year on the.
Yes.
Yeah.
But I think City Securities will do a 20-year.
You're really throwing me when you say community advisor.
It's the same
Am I
thing.
using
You're
the
talking
wrong
about,
term?
you're talking about the same
You're
thing.
really
Well,
throwing me.
can you three, Debbie, Malcolm,
And
Michael?
yeah. I think
can
that should
you
be the
devote-
task force, and we'll come back and tell you what we think we
Thank you.
can do.
Beautiful.
All right.
Enjoy your Christmas, but yeah, maybe if you could
Okay.
put this on your calendars. Any more public comment?
Me?
Yeah, I would just like to say, we're getting ready to lose Andrew here.
What?
We couldn't believe him.
You just got promoted to Operations Supervisor.
Where are you headed?
I'm leaving Lake Lemon December 21st. I've been applying for a lot of jobs up in Indianapolis, consulting and the government as well. At IDEM, I actually have an interview tomorrow up at IDEM. So this will be my last board meeting, guys.
Wow.
Thank you.
We
Thank
miss you.
you.
You've done a
So
fine
you're
job.
Leaving us without even having a lockdown job?
Yeah, well, take a little vacation.
But we appreciate all you've
Yes.
done. You've been wonderful to work with, and wish
Yeah, thank
you
you.
much success. And you're gonna land on your feet wherever you go.
Oh, yeah.
For that. So,
Thank you guys so much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right.
I'm going to be bringing, to that
Oh,
note,
sorry.
I was gonna say.
Alex
Sorry.
next here finally made it from the gatehouse to the main house. So he'll be coming in for that role. He's been with me for 4 years and actually been the head gatehouse for the past 2 years. So he's going to be very, very great for the role. And
Good.
You can always-
Alex, I've spoken to you on the phone many times.
Yes.
You can always stomp on him that so many times as he crawls to the main office, right?
That's right.
Be back forever.
That's right.
Are you the one that always makes popcorn? Somebody's always making
I
popcorn.
used to, yeah.
That was
But our
you.
microwave broke, so
Oh.
no more popcorn.
Microwave broke? I might have one you could borrow. Alrighty, next meeting, as I mentioned, is we're going to be back to our regular fourth Thursdays. It'll be here, January 24th, 6 o'clock, unless we have a major snowstorm, in which case, watch your email, right?
We'll stay home and eat popcorn.
And you can say, "I'm gonna eat popcorn." Thanks y'all for coming. Happy holidays, Merry Christmas, whatever you celebrate, and I would entertain a motion to adjourn.
Happy New Year.
Happy New Year.
I make a motion that we adjourn.
Second.
Moved and seconded, all in favor? Aye. Thank you for coming. Drive safely.
Thank
So,
I'm gonna be on a cruise.
It's on January 24th. I mean, I really am gonna be calling a lot in January.
Oh, sorry.
It's just smart of you.
Read one.
Well,
Yeah. We gotta dredge it out for you.